Hi girls, welcome back. I'm not gonna lie, I am super frustrated with these videos. This is the third time I'm gonna be reading the same chapter. Something odd keeps going on every time I do it. So let's pray that this time everything works out well, because at this point I almost have the whole chapter memorized. Okay, so we will be reading about Todd. Yeah, we don't know much about Todd, do we? And I'm not sure why it looks like they have handkerchiefs over their face. Maybe Todd's sick? Well, I'd like to say I don't know, but this is my third time reading it. But I'm sure you have guesses. Okay, well, let's go ahead and read it. Okay. All of the children in Mrs. Jewell's class, except Todd, were talking and carrying on. Todd was busy thinking. Todd always thought before he spoke. When he got an idea, his eyes lit up. Todd finished thinking and began to speak. But before he said even 2 words, Mrs. Jewell called on him. Todd, she said, you know better than to talk in class. You must learn to work quietly, like the other children. She wrote his name on the blackboard under the word. Do you remember it? What is it? Here's a hint. Starts with a D. You got it? Discipline. Yeah, that's a word for meaning that you got yourself in trouble, huh? Yeah, so most kids don't like their name being written under that word, huh? Okay, so Todd looked around in amazement. All of the other children who had been talking and screaming and fighting in just the last few minutes, even just seconds earlier, were quietly working in their workbooks. Todd scratched his head. A child was given 3 chances in Mrs. Jewell's class. The first time they did something wrong, Mrs. Jewell wrote their name on the blackboard under the word, what was it? Discipline, huh? The second time they did something wrong, she put a check mark next to their name. And the third time they did something wrong, she circled the name. Todd reached into his desk and pulled out his workbook. He had only just started on it when he felt someone his shoulder. It was Joy. What page are you on? Joy asked. Page 4, whispered Todd. I'm on page 11, said Joy. Todd didn't say anything. He didn't want to get in trouble. He just went back to work. 5 minutes later, Joy tapped him again. Todd ignored her. So Joy poked him in the back with her pencil. He pretended that he didn't feel it. Joy got up from her seat and went and sharpened her pencil. She came back and poked it into Todd's back. What page are you on? Asked Joy. Page 5, Todd answered. It is, and then Joy said, boy, you are dumb. I'm on page 29. It isn't a race, Todd whispered. 5 minutes later, Joy pulled Todd's hair and didn't let go until he turned around. What page are you on? She demanded. Page 6, Todd answered as quietly as he could. I'm on page 200! Joy shouted. Todd was very angry. Will you please just stop bothering me and let me do my work? Mrs. Jewell heard him. Todd, what did I say about talking in class? Todd scratched his head. Mrs. Jewell put a check next to Todd's name on the blackboard under the word, what is it? Discipline. Very good. You're getting it. Todd really tried to be good. He knew that if he talked just one more time, Mrs. Jules would circle his name, and then he'd have to go home early at 12 o'clock on the kindergartner bus, just as he had the day before and the day before that. In fact, there hadn't been a day since Mrs. Jules took over the class that she didn't send Todd home early. Mrs. Jules said that she was doing it for his own good. The other children went home at 2 o'clock. Todd wasn't really bad. He just always got caught. He really wanted to stay past 12 o'clock. He wanted to find out what the class did from 12 to 2. But it didn't look as though today was going to be his day. It was only 10:30 and he already had 2 strikes against him. He sealed his lips and went back to work. There was a knock on the door. Mrs. Jules opened it. 2 men stepped in wearing masks and holding guns. "Give us all your money," they demanded. "All I have is a nickel," said Mrs. Jules. "I have a dime," said Mauricia. "I have 13 cents, said Leslie. "I have 4 cents, said Damon. "What kind of bank is this?" asked one of the robbers. "It's not a bank, it's a school," said Todd. "Can't you read?" "No," said the robbers. "Neither can I," said Todd. "Do you mean we walked all the way up 30 flights of stairs for nothing? Don't you have anything valuable?" Todd's eyes lit up. "We sure do," he said. "We have knowledge." He grabbed Joy's workbook and gave it to the robbers. "Knowledge is much more valuable than money." "Thanks, kid," said one of the robbers. "Maybe I'll give up being a criminal and become a scientist instead," said the other robber. They left the room without hurting anybody. "Now I don't have a workbook," complained Joy. Mrs. Jules gave her a new one. Joy had to start all the way back in the beginning. "Hey, Joy, what page are you on?" asked Todd. "Page 1, sighed Joy. "I'm on page 8, said Todd triumphantly. Mrs. Jules heard him. She circled his name. Todd had 3 strikes against him. At 12 o'clock, he left the room to go home early on the kindergartner bus. But this time, when he left, he was like a star baseball player leaving the field. All the children stood up and they clapped and they whistled. Todd scratched his head as he was walking out. So, I guess we didn't find out what the kids do from 12 to noon. The other question I have is, does Todd leave before lunch or after lunch? Because if he leaves before lunch, he doesn't have to eat Mrs. Mush's mush that she serves in the cafeteria, right? So Mrs. Jules said that she was doing it for his own good. Could that be it? Was she saving him from the cafeteria food? Was she sending him home so that he could eat like a peanut butter and jelly or top ramen or mac and cheese at home that didn't taste like mush and ush and smush and gush? That's they all end in ush. Yeah, she's not a very good cook, is she? So maybe we'll find out later, because you know all the characters tend to pop up again and again. So maybe we'll find out why she's sending him home at noon for his own good. Anyway, I love you girls. I'll see you soon. Bye.